After reincarnating into another world, the boy gains 3 beautiful fiancées when he just entered middle school. Additionally, many girls have a crush on him. This is because gods give him invincible abilities, and now he is the strongest man in the world. However, due to his childlike appearance, there are often bad guys who want to humiliate him and his beloved one, and these bad guys end up paying the price. Now, let's take a look at this boy's invincible life. The anime begins with an unexpected incident. One day, Kane just finished his work. On his way home, he witnesses a robbery and the robbers intend to hurt the 2 girls. Without hesitation, Kane confronts the robbers, determined to prevent the girls from harm. However, he is killed in the accident. When Kane wakes up again, he has reincarnated as a noble boy. Seeing Kane wake up, his maid is very happy. Just then, Kane realizes that he has been reincarnated in another world. He lives in a luxurious room, and the maid carefully takes care of him, which can prove that he is definitely not an ordinary person. In this world, Kane was born into a noble family. His father is a count and has 2 wives. The first wife gave birth to 2 boys and the second gave birth to a girl as well as Kane. That is to say, Kane has 2 older brothers and 1 older sister. There is magic and all kinds of strange creatures in this world, which makes Kane very curious. Therefore, he is very studious. Since Kane's soul is a young man, he is much better at learning than ordinary children. Soon, Kane is able to cast some simple spells. Kane's sister likes Kane so much that she often teaches him some knowledge herself. Kane then learns that this kingdom was founded 300 years ago by an adventurer who also seemed to be an earthling. With the help of his sister, Kane quickly masters the basics of the world. One day, Kane needs to go to church for baptism, which is the custom of this world. After being baptized, people are able to cast magic and use other skills. The people of this kingdom believe in 7 gods, who will bless the baptized believers and give them certain talents. Generally, a person will only be blessed by 1 or 2 gods, but when Kane is baptized, he sees all 7 gods. The gods tell Kane that his death was an accident, so the gods on earth ask them to take care of him. Therefore, all 7 gods bless Kane and grant him talents in magic, combat, business, life skills, and so on. When Kane returns to the church from the world of gods, he immediately checks his state, only to be surprised to find that all of his attributes are twice the maximum. If it is discovered by someone, Kane may be in trouble, so he decides to hide his true attributes. But even so, Kane's family is frightened when they check Kane's attributes because Kane forgets to hide his mana, and his mana turns out to be dozens of times more than that of the strongest magician. Kane's father decides to hide Kane's attributes because he has the potential to cause panic in other countries. After Kane is baptized, he is able to cast high-level summoning magic. He wants a magic pet, so he casts a summoning spell based on the contents of a summoning magic book. However, Kane accidentally summons a monster, which intends to attack his sister and another young girl. Driven by his protective instincts, Kane courageously confronts the monster, which is similar to the scene of Kane's death in his previous life. Fortunately, Kane emerges victorious in this battle, successfully protecting the 2 girls. Overwhelmed with gratitude, both girls are deeply moved by Kane's unwavering courage and express their heartfelt appreciation for his heroic actions. Kane also feels very happy, knowing that in this world, he possesses formidable abilities to safeguard those in need. Since then, Kane has had a dream to travel to every corner of the world and help as many people as possible. To make Kane better learn magic and swordsmanship, Kane's parents find 2 adventurers to be Kane's teachers. Kane is curious about the 2 teachers, so when he hears the teachers arrive, he runs out excitedly. Just then, Kane discovers that his teachers are 2 beautiful girls. Since Kane is from a noble family, the 2 teachers have great respect for him. One of them is a magician and the other is a swordswoman. Later when they are teaching, the 2 teachers are surprised to find that Kane is much stronger than a child, even stronger than the average adventurer. He can easily defeat his swordsmanship teacher in battle, and his magic is much more powerful than that of his magic teacher. He also has a magic box, which is only as big as a palm, but inside it is a magical space as large as a castle. The 2 teachers realize that Kane is much stronger than them, and they don't have any skills to teach Kane. At this time, Kane suggests that they take him out on an adventure. Usually, Kane can only stay at home and can only go out when practicing magic, so the 2 teachers ask for Kane's father's permission to take Kane out. After Kane's father learns that Kane may ruin the house if he practices magic at home, he agrees. After Kane comes to the wild, he can finally cast magic with his full strength. He directly destroys a large stone with medium-level fire magic, which is even more powerful than others' high-level magic. both teachers are surprised, and they are finally convinced that Cain is a super genius. At this time, they suddenly hear the sound of a monster coming from the grass nearby. Cain immediately attacks the monster and kills it. After that, he puts the materials dropped by the monster into his magic box. Cain's possession of the magical box sparks envy among the teachers. Later, they hunt monsters with Cain in the wild. During the battle, a group of monsters manages to escape into the nearby forest. Cain is eager to pursue them but is stopped by teachers because there are many powerful monsters in the forest. Hearing this, Cain makes up his mind to improve his strength so that he can explore the forest in the future. After a day of training, Cain is raised to level 8. The speed of Cain's leveling up is unexpectedly 100 times faster than the others. Because with the extra blessing of the god, he gains experience points 100 times more than others in one battle. The next day, the teachers take Cain to the Adventurers Guild, where they can find a lot of information about monsters. Both teachers are D-rank adventurers, but Cain is still young, so he cannot register as an adventurer for the time being and has no rank. At this time, several C-rank adventurers harass the two teachers. Although they are adventurers, they are very disgusting. Cain is angry and he immediately stops these shameless adventurers. Despite his young age, Cain is very powerful. The leader of the C-rank adventurers underestimates Cain's strength, and in the end, he is easily defeated by Cain, but he is unwilling to admit defeat and then tries to attack Cain with a weapon. Angry, Cain teaches them a hard lesson and drives them away from the Adventurers Guild. The teachers express their gratitude towards Cain, and later, they find more monsters according to the guild's intelligence with Cain and gain a lot of experience points from the monsters. As time passes by, Cain takes adventures with the two teachers for 3 years, during which the teachers have also become more powerful than before. Later, the two teachers decide to venture somewhere else and say goodbye to Cain. Knowing this, Cain decides to prepare a gift for them before they leave. He knows they have always wanted a magic box, so he tries to make 2 magic boxes for them. He goes into the dangerous woods in search of materials to craft magic boxes and defeats a lot of powerful monsters. During then, his battle with the monsters causes a violent explosion, which causes the soldiers in the castle to think that the monster is about to invade the castle. So Cain's father leads the army to the forest to hunt down monsters. When they arrive, they see only a large hole. Seeing the item left by Cain in the hole, Cain's father finally understands what happened. After then, Cain sends his teachers 2 magic bags as parting gifts, which contain a magic space as large as a castle. Magic bags with space as large as a carriage are already very rare, so the bags given by Cain are as precious as national treasures. Filled with gratitude towards Cain, the teachers have no idea of how to repay him. Ultimately, they give Cain 2 kisses. Later, Cain says goodbye to his guiding teachers and embarks on the new journey of his life. All the children of nobles need to go to the royal capital for their debut into society when they are 10 years old. On this day, Cain and his family decide to leave for the capital. On their way, they might encounter danger because there are many monsters nearby. Therefore, they are protected by many knights. But in fact, Cain does not need anyone's protection at all, and he has the ability to defeat any monsters. Halfway through, Cain detects a nearby battle where several humans are besieged by a group of monsters, so he decides to offer help immediately. He thinks that riding the carriage is too slow, so he directly uses the wind magic to fly to the battlefield. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the monsters have defeated most of the soldiers. The surviving soldiers are guarding a luxurious carriage, but they will soon be defeated as well. Fortunately, Cain arrives in time, and with his powerful magic, he defeats half of the monsters in an instant. The other half of the monsters are fighting the soldiers, and Cain may hurt the soldiers if he attacks with magic, so he kills the other monsters with his sword. He then heals all the wounded soldiers with the healing magic. By the time Cain's father and knights arrive, the battle is long over. Suddenly, the door of the luxurious carriage opens. The royal princess, Telestia, and the noble girl, Silk, walk out, and they express their gratitude to Cain. Cain can tell that they are still frightened, so he uses calming magic to calm them. After that, Telestia and Silk fall in love with Cain at first sight. When they hear that Cain also leaves for the capital, they separately hold Cain's 2 arms and take him into the carriage. In the carriage, they are unwilling to let go of Cain for 1 second and lean on his shoulders all the time. The journey to the capital spans several days, and they need to stay overnight in another city along the way. Upon reaching the city, Telestia and Silk insist on accompanying Kane, even inviting him to sleep with them. Despite grappling with a sense of reluctance, Kane ultimately concedes to sharing a room with them. In this room, 3 beds are arranged, but Telestia and Silk put the 3 beds together to sleep in the same bed as Kane. As a result, Kane is too nervous to fall asleep at night. The following day, he grappled with fatigue. Luckily, soon after, they successfully arrive in the capital. The head of the knights in the capital sees Telestia and Silk holding Kane's hand and feels very strange at first, but when he learns that Kane saved the 2 girls, he understands them and respects Kane very much. After that, Kane buries the dead soldiers with the knights. Later, the head of the knights asks Kane to go directly to meet the king in the palace. It turns out that the king is very curious about Kane when he heard that Kane defeated the terrifying monsters alone and saved Telestia and Silk. When the king sees Kane, he is very happy, so he decides to promote Kane to Baron and give him a mansion. Among the other nobles present, there is one who thinks that Kane is too young to receive such a reward, but the king directly asks him to fight the monsters alone just like Kane, and tells him to shut up if he can't do this. After hearing this, the noble can only recognize the king's decision. Kane successfully gets promoted to Baron. After that, the king wants to meet Kane again in private. Later, Kane and his father come to the king's reception area, and the king and Silk's father also arrive with their daughters. This time, the king, as a father, thanks Kane again. Immediately afterward, he and Silk's father make a very surprising request. That is, they hope that Kane makes a marriage contract with Telestia and Silk. It turns out that they learn that Telestia and Silk are close to Kane during their journey, so they want Kane to be responsible for this and marry 2 girls in the future. Kane also loves these 2 beautiful girls, so although he feels very shy, he still agrees to it. After that, the gods summon Kane again. They tell him that he is now the strongest human and that if he becomes stronger, he will become a demigod. Hearing this, Kane is very surprised. This time, the gods summon Kane because they want to ask him to introduce Japanese entertainment to the world because, in this world, people rarely know what entertainment is. Later, Kane returns to the real world. While accompanying his sister on a visit to the clothing store, he encounters a cat girl, who happens to be his childhood sweetheart. Her uncle is the president of a chamber of commerce. Therefore, wanting to test its strength, Kane offers to visit the chamber of commerce. After the investigation, Kane thinks the chamber is not bad, so he tells the president that he wants to make a board game. There are no board games in this world, but after Kane explains the rules to the president thinks that this board game will definitely be popular. What Kane asked the president to make is a reversi board game, which is an interesting board game with simple rules. By spending so much time on this matter, Kane forgets that his sister is still waiting for him. Kane's sister is very angry, but when hearing Kane praising her looking good in the new dresses, she becomes happy again. The next day, the model of the reversi is done. Kane thinks the model is great and they should start mass production right away. He suggests that the president make 2 versions. One is a cheap version that the commoners can also afford, and the other is an expensive version for nobles. Kane wants to produce thousands of the reversi, but the Chamber of Commerce doesn't have enough money, so he provides the money to produce it. There is a special custom in this world that when new goods appear, they must first offer them to the god of commerce. So Kane and the president start a ritual and sacrifice the model of the reversi to the god of commerce. Kane knows the gods will love the game. After Kane returns home from the Chamber of Commerce, the maid immediately reminds him to go to a ball. Later, Kane's parents take him to the ball, which all the nobles in the kingdom will attend, including Telestia and Silk. Kane greets Silk and her father very gentlemanly. Since Kane's soul is a young man, not a child, he behaves maturely. This makes Silk's father feel a little strange, because Kane is so good at socializing. He looks a bit like a playboy. Kane and his parents are embarrassed by this. Soon after, Kane and his parents go to meet the king, who gives the same assessment that Kane is a bit of a playboy. After listening to it, Kane quickly changes the subject, taking out the reversi as a gift. The king is very happy about this. After then, the grown-ups engage in social interactions, so Kane's parents ask Kane to play with other children. As Kane engages in conversation with Silk, a marquis son with 2 ass-kissers provokes Kane. Unaware of Kane's family background, they mistakenly perceive him to have a lower social standing. Actually, Kane's father is a count, a position that boasts a higher status than their father's. Then the son of the marquis offers to duel Kane, which Kane doesn't refuse. They come to the grass outside. The Marquis's son and 2 ass-kissers try hard to gather all their mana, but in the end, they only cast very weak magic. Their fire magic is like a candle flame, and they only summon a small stone with earth magic. Cain can easily defeat them with just a finger. But Cain doesn't really want to fight these kids, so Silk reveals Cain's identity. The story of Cain defeating dozens of monsters alone has long spread throughout the country. When the Marquis's son and 2 ass-kissers learn Cain's identity, they are shocked, and immediately kneel to beg for mercy, hoping that Cain can forgive their rudeness. Cain, of course, won't blame the kids, so he forgives them. Silk can tell that the reason why Cain didn't reveal his identity before is that he wants to tease these kids, so she jokingly says that Cain must date her, otherwise, she will tell others. At this time, Telestia notices that Cain and Silk are chatting, so she joins them. They agree to go on a date together next time. Coincidentally, when passing by, the king hears their conversation and is now more convinced that Cain is a playboy. One day, Cain is given the key to the mansion granted by the king and is ready to take over it. When Cain comes to the mansion according to the map, he finds that the mansion is completely abandoned because it is too old. Although the mansion is huge, it is almost dirty everywhere. Luckily, Cain can easily change all that with magic. He casts magic to repair the broken parts of the mansion and clear all the dirt. Now the mansion looks like a brand new one. Cain also hires a butler and a group of lovely maids who heard of Cain's reputation and admire him very much. They were supposed to clean the mansion today, but Cain has already done it with magic. Subsequently, Cain's family pays a visit to his mansion and is surprised to find that the mansion can become clean and tidy in a very short time. However, Cain's father thinks that although the mansion is well maintained, it still needs more decorations. So Cain takes out a stuffed huge dragon as a decoration, which frightens the maids. Cain's father feels very surprised because huge dragons are very powerful monsters that usually can only be killed by the army of a country. In addition to the decorations, there are some unique designs in Cain's mansion. Cain applies water magic to his toilet, giving it a cleaning function. This is the first time Cain's family has experienced this function, and they all think it is great. After that, Cain's father reminds Cain that he has to invite other nobles to the mansion following etiquette. Cain's butler quickly prepares the guest list and the list of supplies. After reading it, Cain discovers that the king's name isn't on the guest list. It turns out that Cain is only a baron, and if he wants to invite the king, he has to become a duke at least. In addition, Cain needs to prepare gifts for each guest. He discovers that there is no glassware in this world, so he casts magic to make beautiful glassware as gifts. Besides, Cain teaches the chef to make a steak, a common dish in Japan. He also makes sparkling wine by making the wine carbonated. After that, the king summons Cain, asking him why he didn't invite him. Cain can only explain and apologize, and then formally invites the king. Soon after, Cain hosts a banquet to entertain guests. When the guests enter the mansion, they are immediately shocked by the stuffed dragon, which they think is probably the most perfect stuffed dragon in the world. After the banquet begins, the guests are also surprised by the sparkling wine. They have never tasted this wine, nor have they ever seen such good-looking glassware. When Cain announces that the glassware will be given as a gift to all guests, they are pleasantly surprised. Upon the king's arrival at the banquet, he is taken aback by the sparkling wine and the glassware he has never seen before. As he tastes the steak, he finds it exceptionally delectable and proceeds to publicly commend Cain's splendid banquet. After the guests go to the toilet, they are astounded by the toilet's advanced washing capabilities. Once the king experiences the toilet himself, he promptly requests that Cain implement the cleansing feature across all toilets in the palace. All the guests enjoy the banquet and cheer for Cain. Just then, a marquis hostile to Cain also comes to the banquet. His manners are appalling, and the other guests hate him. The marquis tastes sparkling wine and steak, which he thinks are very delicious, but he deliberately says that they taste bad. Cain does not want to clash with the marquis, so he endures the marquis' rudeness. However, Cain knows that one of the guests can punish the marquis. By the time he connives at the marquis' impudence, the king has already come near. The marquis does not expect that the king will attend a baron's banquet, so he keeps behaving rudely. When he sees the king, he immediately kneels to apologize for his rudeness and flees the mansion. The clever boy Cain takes advantage of the king's dignity and makes the marquis pay for his impudence. After the banquet, Cain is invited to attend the knights' training session by the royal knights. He gives the knights many monsters' dead bodies, which are very precious forging materials, as gifts. Seeing the dead bodies of the monsters, the vice-captain feels very surprised, because these monsters are so powerful that only the army can defeat them. the vice captain thinks Cain is very powerful, so he proposes that Cain stay and guide the training of the royal knights. He also says that the captain of the royal knights likes the strong the most, hoping that Cain can meet the captain. After that, Cain starts to train the royal knights. Someone in the knights thinks Cain is just a child and worries that he will hurt Cain accidentally. Knowing this, the vice captain asks this person to train with Cain one-on-one. However, Cain defeats him in an instant. Everyone witnesses Cain's real strength, and they no longer doubt him. Later, the knights begin their training under Cain's guidance. Just then, a beautiful elven girl intervenes, who also thinks of Cain as a child and expresses concern for his safety. In response, the vice captain clarifies that Cain is the newly appointed baron who has defeated the monster and rescued the princess. Upon hearing this revelation, the elven girl becomes visibly enthused and promptly volunteers to challenge Cain with a duel. The vice captain then introduces that the beautiful girl turns out to be the captain of the royal knights, Tifana. Tifana is very powerful and is called Master Swordsperson. With only a wooden sword, Cain fights Tifana. In the beginning, Cain and Tifana fight to a draw, but later in the fight, Cain shows his real strength and eventually wins. Tifana is shocked by Cain's strength. After the duel, she unexpectedly proposes to Cain, making Cain very shy. Cain doesn't agree immediately, telling Tifana that he must gain his father's and the king's permission first. So Tifana heads to meet Cain's father and the king. Both the king and Cain's father are surprised to hear that Tifana wants to marry Cain. They ask Cain why Tifana wants to marry him. Cain immediately explains that it is because he defeated Tifana. The king tells Cain that the first king of the kingdom was friendly to the elves, so the elves joined the kingdom. Tifana comes from the elven kingdom, named the Liebert territory, and she is not only the captain of the royal knights but also the princess of the Liebert territory. Later, the king reminds Tifana that Cain has already been engaged to Telestia and Silk. When Tifana learns of this, she not only does not mind but also has a stronger desire to marry Cain because she thinks that Cain has been approved by the king and nobles. Next, as long as Tifana can get her father's approval, she can get engaged to Cain. Tifana falls in love with Cain because Cain defeated her. But a question soon appears in the king's mind. Tifana is the strongest knight in the kingdom, while Cain is just a little boy. How could he defeat Tifana? The king begins to suspect that Cain may be the legendary hero. So he orders the minister to bring an ancient royal magic book that can test Cain's true identity. A few days later, the vice captain again invites Cain to meet the king, who then hands the book to Cain and asks him to read it. This magic book is a treasure left by the first king, and it records very powerful magic, so Cain is very excited. Cain's expression reveals his true identity. It turns out that the book is written in Japanese, and except for the first king, Cain is the only one who understands it, which proves that he, like the first king, is a hero in the legend. It dawns on Cain that, like him, the first king also came from Earth. The difference is that the first king traveled to this world with his body, while Cain was reborn in this world. Once the king unveils Cain's concealed identity, Cain has to tell the truth. He reveals that his soul traversed from another world, and he saw gods before. Subsequently, he shows them his status. Everyone is taken aback by Cain's astounding attributes, which are too powerful for a human but are likely to possess by a god. Cain knows that once his identity is revealed, he will be worshipped as a god. But that's not what Cain wants. Instead, he only wants to live an ordinary and happy life like now. So several people who learn the secret promise that they will keep it a secret. Immediately after, Tifana arrives in the room and tells Cain that her father has approved her marriage to Cain. In this way, Cain has another fiancée, and he will embark on a new adventure with his harem. Learning that the first king was originally an adventurer, and later founded the country, Cain also wants to be an adventurer. He comes to the Adventurers Guild and registers as an adventurer. Each adventurer starts with AG rank, and they need to level up by doing quests. Cain's former teachers are D rank adventurers, and the first king was an SSS rank adventurer. There are good and bad people among adventurers. Several bad adventurers meet young Cain and try to bully him. However, Cain easily dodges their attacks. At this time, a red-haired adventurer helps Cain drive the hooligans away. Cain expresses his gratitude to him. The red-haired adventurer's nickname is Flame, and his wife is the adventurer nicknamed Ice. They are all A-rank adventurers. Cain becomes friends with them, and then they say goodbye to Cain and go on a mission. Cain decides to take a mission as well, and he wants to find a mission to hunt down monsters. Due to Cain's low level, he can only choose to fight low-level monsters such as goblins. As soon as Cain leaves the Adventurers Guild, Tifana comes to see him. Upon learning of Cain's intention to confront the goblins, Tefana insists on joining him for this mission. Confronted with Tefana's resolute determination, Cain has to grant her request. Subsequently, harnessing his formidable mana, he detects the goblins' whereabouts within the forest. Entering the forest, they discover the goblins are attacking a merchant. As the strongest knight in the kingdom, Tefana handily overcomes these goblins. During the fight, she dreams about her happy future with Cain, showing that this is an easy battle for her. After Tefana defeats the goblins, a group of lizard monsters appears, which are more powerful than the goblins. Cain asks Tefana to flee first with the merchant, and he wants to defeat these lizard monsters with powerful magic. After Tefana and the merchant flee to safety, Cain defeats all the lizard monsters in an instant with a single spell. After that, Cain returns to the Adventurers Guild and reports his achievements to the guild's guide, who is surprised to hear that Cain defeats a group of lizard monsters alone. She immediately reports the incident to the manager of the Adventurers Guild. The manager doesn't believe that Cain, a G-rank adventurer, is capable of defeating a group of lizard monsters, because a single lizard monster has the same strength as a D-rank adventurer, and only a whole team of C-rank adventurers can fight a group of lizard monsters. So he directly decides that Cain was cheating and disqualifies Cain from being an adventurer. Fortunately, the leader of the Adventurers Guild arrives in time, and he instantly recognizes Cain's identity and demands an apology from the manager. It turns out that the leader is Tefana's older brother, and he has long heard that his sister's fiancé is Cain and how powerful Cain is. The manager and the guide are very surprised when they hear about Cain's identity, especially the manager. Since Cain is a baron and the manager is just a commoner, the manager's defamation of Cain for cheating is a very serious crime. The manager immediately kneels to apologize to Cain, hoping that Cain will forgive him. Cain does not blame the manager but asks him not to be wrong about others in the future, and to investigate before making a judgment. After learning that Cain has defeated a group of lizard monsters, the guild leader decides to raise Cain's level to C rank. But Tefana thinks that the C rank is still too low for Cain, who was able to defeat the dragon alone at the age of 10 and has also defeated her. This can prove that Cain is more powerful than A rank adventurers. The guild leader agrees with Tefana, but even if Cain is strong enough, he can't break the rules. So the guild leader asks Cain to perform a B rank adventurer's mission for leveling up, which is to defeat the bandit group. As long as Cain completes this task, he will be promoted to an A rank adventurer. Meanwhile, the gods in the divine realm are watching Cain's actions. Seeing his growth in strength, they feel a sense of reassurance, yet they still think his current power is insufficient. Because the awakening of the sealed demon lord is approaching, Cain needs to further enhance his abilities to fight against this formidable adversary. Therefore, they decide to seek out a new teacher for Cain. A few days later, Cain is woken up by his maid. Today is the day of the entrance exam to the Royal Academy, but when Cain wakes up, he is already late. Fortunately, Cain has the ability to teleport, and he teleports himself directly to the examination site. Cain then receives the admission ticket and enters the examination room. Telestia and Silk are also taking the exam today, and strangely, Cain doesn't see them in the examination room. The first exam is a written exam, which Cain completes quickly. The examiner then tests the candidate's level of magic. She says that the examination site is protected by magic, so the candidates can use their full strength without worrying about destroying the examination site. Cain knows that if he really uses his full strength, the examination site will definitely be destroyed, so he casts only one of the simplest magics, but even so, he still destroys the examination site. After the magic exam, the final exam comes, in which the candidates will be tested on their combat ability. The examiners are all adventurers, and they will test the candidates' level through battles. The red-haired adventurer Cain saw before is one of the examiners. The red-haired adventurer offers to be Cain's examiner. Under normal circumstances, the examiner does not need to be so serious, and they only need to show part of their strength. But the red-haired adventurer can tell that Cain is very powerful, so he fights Cain with all his might. After the fierce battle, Cain is quickly recognized as getting full marks. Now he can go home and wait for the result of the exam. Soon the king learns of Cain's test result. The academy issues a ticket, and Cain needs to pay a fine for destroying the examination site. The king discovers that Cain has actually gone to the wrong examination site. This exam is held in two sites, one for the commoners and the other for the nobles. Cain was supposed to go to the latter, but he went to the wrong one. That's why he didn't meet Telestia and Silk on the examination site. but no matter which examination site Cain is in, he will definitely get full marks. Instead of directly announcing Cain's result, the king asks him to look it up on the notification board like other candidates. Near the notification board, Cain meets Silk, who ranks second, and Telestia wins third place. Undoubtedly, Cain ranks first. Cain's family and friends are very happy. As the top achiever, Cain is tasked with giving a speech as the student representative. Stepping up to the podium, he reveals his accidental visit to the incorrect examination site but is still admitted to the Royal Academy. Taking it as an example, he tells students that despite the different examination sites for nobles and commoners, it does not delineate their inherent worth. They are all equal in the Royal Academy. Later, the king arrives and makes a speech. The whole site is filled with applause, and the freshman's speech ends perfectly. The Royal Academy offers a lot of courses, and in the first class, students need to choose their own courses. Cain chooses 4 subjects, namely nobility, adventuring, magic, and magic items. It will be tough for ordinary people to learn 2 subjects, such as Telestia, who chooses nobility and internal affairs, and she chooses the latter because she wants to help Cain manage the domain in the future. Silk chooses the nobility and commerce, hoping to help Cain make money in the future. After the first class, Cain discovers that several noble students are bullying a common student. The commoner is Cain's childhood friend, a cat girl. Cain is angry and stops the noble students, who were taught a lesson by Cain before, but this time they don't need to deal with Cain, and they can deal with the cat girl with the influence of their families. Cain, as a baron, has no right to take control of their family. Just then, Telestia and Silk come to stop them. Telestia, as the princess of the kingdom, represents the authority of the king. The noble students are instantly frightened, and they immediately kneel to apologize and ask for the forgiveness of the cat girl. After that, the cat girl expresses her gratitude to Cain. Telestia and Silk think that the cat girl seems to like Cain too, so they talk about him together. In the next second, Cain suddenly hears a man's voice, which can only be heard by Cain. The man asks him to meet him in the library. Cain is curious, so he teleports himself directly to the library. At the library, Cain unexpectedly meets a man who is making coffee. It is he who asks Cain out, and he even knows the name of Cain's previous life. It turns out that the mysterious man is Yuya, the first king of the kingdom as well as the master gods found for Cain. Like Cain, Yuya also comes from Earth. He is over 300 years old but still looks like a young man. This is because Yuya has become a god, so he does not grow old. Yuya takes on the role of training Cain to enhance his strength, although Cain holds the belief that his current abilities are already sufficient. In order to assess his prowess, Yuya challenges Cain to a cookie-snatching contest, which only ends with Cain's immediate failure. At this moment, Yuya reveals to Cain that he sealed a formidable demon king named Eren 300 years ago. The seal has weakened in recent times, and Eren may awake soon, possessing powers to create wars and destroy the world. Eren's emergence poses a grave threat, but the gods and Yuya are not allowed to intervene in mortal affairs. They have to entrust the mission to Cain. But now Cain is apparently not strong enough, and he needs to be trained. Yuya then takes Cain to a magical island he created. Here a year is like a day in the normal world. Cain needs to defeat the various powerful monsters on the island to reach the house located at the highest part of the island. Cain has never faced an opponent who could pose a threat to him, but encountering the powerful and numerous monsters on this island, Cain feels the pressure for the first time. Meanwhile, Cain's family and comrades have found him missing, yet they're not worried at present because Cain is strong in their eyes. But in fact, Cain is now facing a crisis. His physical strength and magic power have been exhausted, while there are still many monsters nearby. Just then, Cain spots a wounded white wolf. As he heals the white wolf with his only remaining magical power, he blacks out. Luckily, when Cain is unconscious, the white wolf defeats nearby monsters and protects him. Replenished, Cain finally wakes up. He quickly becomes partners with the white wolf. They fight and adventure on the island together. 4 years later, Cain manages to reach the highest house. Both he and the white wolf have grown up a lot. Now he can summon or hide the white wolf at any time through magic. But Cain's training doesn't end here. Yuya finds a powerful warrior, Dara, as Cain's opponent. Only if he defeats Dara does his training reach the final success. However, Cain loses to Dara the first time he tries to fight. Dara then takes Cain home to take care of him, and they will live together until Cain wins. Before Cain starts the training with Dara, Yuya tells Cain a secret. Although Cain was an orphan in his previous life, he was not abandoned by his parents. It turns out that Cain's parents, along with Yuya, were summoned to another world. They fought and adventured together, becoming stronger with Yuya. However, they died in the final showdown with Eren. In other words, Eren is Kain's enemy. When Kain learns about this, his will becomes firmer. In the following year, Dara and Kain fight almost every day. Although Kain loses every battle, he isn't discouraged, because he has to be stronger. After continuous training, Kain manages to beat Dara. After that, Kain comes to his parents' grave to mourn them. Yuya tells Kain that they had been thinking about him until they died, and they kept looking for a way to return to Earth. Hearing this, Kain is so moved that he couldn't help crying. Suddenly, Yuya takes out a cookie, and this time Kain grabs the cookie instantly, which means Kain already has the strength to fight Eren. Yuya recognizes Kain's strength and agrees to transport him back to the original world. To prevent Kain's family from being surprised, Yuya also changes Kain's body to what it was 5 years ago. Before he leaves, Dara gives him a dragon as a pet, and Yuya also gives him a sword. When Kain returns to the real world, 5 days have passed. His family and companions thought he has gone missing and become worried about him. During his absence, Telestia and Silk tried to bake cookies while awaiting his return. When they bring out the hand-baked cookies, Kain eats them all feeling very touched. For him, he hasn't seen them for 5 years and misses life here so much. When he returns to the kingdom, he immediately tells the king about his experience. The king doesn't believe in such unusual stories at first, until Kain takes out Yuya's sword. He finally believes that Yuya is not only alive but also becomes a god. Previously, the leader of the Adventurers Guild gave Kain a task to fight the bandit group, and Kain can be promoted to an A-rank adventurer after he finishes it. But before he could perform the task, he went to practice with Yuya. Luckily, in this world, only 5 days passed, and Kain is still in time to perform his task. So he sets off immediately. After he comes to the place where the bandit group frequents, he casts flying magic to fly through the air and observe the situation. Successfully finding the traces of the bandit group, they are robbing an escorting team, and the team's guards happen to be Kain's former teachers. The red-haired one is Millie and the green-haired one is Nina. They have already fought against the bandit group and are wounded as a result. Kain immediately treats their injuries. After that, he easily defeats the bandit group. For Kain, the most difficult part of this battle is how to control his power so as not to kill them directly. Millie and Nina haven't seen Kain for a long time, and they tell him about their experiences over the years. When they know that Kain has become an A-rank adventurer and a baron, they are very surprised. When Kain returns to the city, he discovers that the escorting team he is protecting belongs to his friend's family. Soon after, he goes to the Adventurers Guild with Millie and Nina. After completing this task, Kain successfully gets promoted to A rank. Just then, an indecent adventurer attempts to harass Millie and Nina. Kain immediately drives him and his companions away. At this moment, the adventurer couple, who previously befriended Kain, also arrives at the Adventurers Guild. They happen to be relatives of Millie and friends of Nina. Subsequently, they join Kain for dinner at the restaurant. During their meal, Millie and Nina casually bring up the topic of the magic boxes Kain gifted them earlier, which can even accommodate a house. Learning of this, the couple is taken aback, as a box with such a large space is equal to a national treasure. So they ask Kain to make a magic box for them as well. Without hesitation, Kain grants their request. But Kain has taken 5 days off for his practice. Now he has to go back to school. When learning of this, other people are surprised because the strongest teacher in the school is no match for Kain in strength. And Kain cannot become stronger in school anymore. But he doesn't think he knows enough about the world. And he believes he can still learn a lot of common sense in school. Coincidentally, the school wants to hire adventurers to give lectures to the students during this time. So they decide to go to the school together and see Kain's campus life while teaching. Later, they find out that Kain has no friends at school because he is much more mature than normal children and no one wants to be friends with him. Afterward, they try to get Kain to gain more friends by letting him show his strength. In the subsequent adventurer lesson, they have students show their adventurer cards, which represent the adventurer's level, but Kain doesn't want to show his card in front of his classmates. As an A-rank adventurer, he possesses a gold card, which will definitely cause other people to be frightened or jealous. So Kain lies that he forgets to bring the adventurer card. In the subsequent combat training course, the adventurers want Kain to show his strength, so they arrange for Kain to be the last to do actual combat training. But there are too many students, and after everyone completes the actual combat training, the class is over. In the end, only Kain does not have time to engage in actual combat. He originally wants to test his practice results in battle, so he feels sad. At night, Cain goes to a forest full of monsters, aiming to assess his prowess by engaging in combat with the creatures. However, these monsters are too weak for Cain to stimulate his full potential. Additionally, the noise caused by his fight makes the near army mistakenly think that the demon lord has awakened. Cain's father hurriedly leads the army to the forest, only to find Cain's scarf. He immediately realizes that the noise is created by his son, Cain. After that, the king warns Cain that such noise will make the army alert. Cain immediately apologizes for this. Meanwhile, Aaron's seal has weakened more, and he is about to return to this world. Cain is so powerful that he may destroy the entire magic academy with his weakest magic, so the teacher forbids him from attending most of the magic courses. But today they are going to have a summoning class, and generally, the summoning magic won't cause damage, so the teacher allows Cain to participate in today's course. The summoning teacher hands over the magic array that can summon monsters to the students. As long as they inject mana into the magic array, they can summon all kinds of monsters. Most of the students summon cute and petite low-level monsters. Though a powerful student summons a high-level monster, he is too weak to conquer it, so he cannot become the master of the high-level monster, which quickly disappears. When it is Cain's turn, he directly summons an ancient and honorable demon, Seth. Seth doesn't believe humans can summon him and is furious, but when he sees Cain's attributes clearly, he immediately kneels to Cain and offers to become Cain's servant. Cain successfully signs a contract with Seth, which frightens both the teacher and his classmates. Immediately afterward, the king summons Cain. When he learns that Cain summoned a demon, he is also very scared, because once the demon gets angry, the entire kingdom may be destroyed. The king believes that Cain has become stronger after practice, and he wants to see Cain's current attributes. When everyone sees it, they are all shocked. Previously, though powerful, Cain was just a human, but now, he is already a demigod. The king and the ministers want to kneel to Cain as a sign of respect, but Cain stops them. He wants them to keep this a secret and see him the way they used to. The king agrees and makes him a viscount. After that, Cain makes his way back to his territory. Just then, he receives the news that the monsters in the bordering forest are growing stronger and crazier, seemingly intending to invade the kingdom. Typically, the kingdom would dispatch adventurers to scout the forest and then send the army based on the situation. However, given the dangerous situation this time, Cain decides to scout the forest himself. When Cain arrives at the Adventurers Guild to report, the guide of the guild tries to persuade Cain to find some teammates to accompany him. But Cain decides that the task is too dangerous and rejects the guide's suggestion. In fact, Cain is not alone in this task, and he has several companions, such as the white wolf he picked up while practicing and the dragon that Dara gave him. To better perform this task, Cain summons Seth. Seth is able to sense a powerful creature in the forest, and because of this creature, a large number of crazy monsters have recently appeared in his territory. To help Cain, Seth summons his subordinate, a vampire. This vampire is very good at scouting, and he is able to control a large number of bats. These bats soon cover most of the forest. Meanwhile, Cain enters the forest, where he kills all the most powerful monsters to prevent them from posing a threat to the kingdom. When Seth and the vampire see Cain's strength, they become even more in awe of Cain. After that, Cain brings back to the kingdom the dead bodies of these monsters, which are valuable materials. At the same time, Seth and the vampire feel the aura of Aaron, and Aaron, after discovering them, completely awakens. Later, Aaron sends more monsters to attack, and Seth immediately comes to Cain's side with teleportation magic, informing him that numerous monsters are about to invade the kingdom. When Cain learns of this, he decides to leave the responsibility of resisting the monsters to the adventurers and the army. He will travel to the deepest part of the forest to face Aaron directly. Tifana, as the head of the knights, comes to the border as soon as possible. She embraces Cain warmly and offers to fight with him. Cain asks Tifana to stay at the border and command the army here, while he will head to the forest with Seth. Since teleportation magic is rare, Cain decides to run to the forest. After he arrives, he instantly feels the terrifying mana of Aaron. He knows that Aaron has completely lifted the seal now. Seth and the vampire have defeated many monsters in the forest, but still, many more monsters have been summoned by Aaron. Cain knows that if he wants to completely eliminate these monsters, he must kill Aaron, who constantly summons them. Seth tells Cain to go straight to the deepest part of the forest to face Aaron without worrying about other monsters. So Cain stops fighting the monsters in the forest, deciding to keep his mana against Aaron. Soon, a large number of monsters appear on the border of the kingdom. Tifana immediately orders the people in the city to evacuate to safety, while the adventurers of the guild walk against the crowd, intending to enter the forest and fight the monsters together. Meanwhile, Seth summons several subordinates to confront the monsters. These subordinates are all formidable demons and are surprised to know Seth summoned them to assist a human. Seth then reveals that this human has evolved into a demigod. Only then do the demons know why the arrogant Seth will render aid to a human. Immediately, they comply with Seth's directives and fight the monsters. Soon after, Cain comes to the deepest part of the forest, where Aaron is sealed in a cave. After sensing Cain's appearance, Aaron immediately attacks him. Cain blocks the attack and sees Aaron's face clearly. Since Aaron's original body cannot leave the seal, Aaron allows his soul to enter the body of a dragon. After he leaves the seal with the dragon's body, he summons more monsters. Seth and his subordinates can't kill so many monsters. Luckily, the adventurers have reached the forest, and they gather to defend against a large number of monsters. After Aaron summons the monsters, he begins to attack Cain. Before that, there were few enemies who could withstand Cain's attacks. But this time, Cain's attacks fail to even injure Aaron. This will be the greatest test Cain will face after his rebirth. In addition to Cain, other adventurers also face a huge crisis, and it is their first time confronting so many monsters, but they don't feel afraid, still fighting against them bravely. After some time, they are running out of their physical strength and mana, ready to sacrifice. Luckily, Tifana leads the army to join them. The adventurers and the army join forces to prevent monsters from entering the kingdom. Meanwhile, Cain is doing his best to fight Aaron. His pets bravely attack Aaron, but they are injured by him. Cain immediately saves his pets. Aaron mocks Cain for wasting his mana to protect his companions. His words anger Cain. For Cain, his companions, and his family, are the most important things in the world. To protect them, he is willing to sacrifice everything. Such determination allows Cain to burst into a power beyond his limits, and he unleashes more powerful magic than ever before. In the end, Cain succeeds in destroying Aaron, who has not even ashes left. Seth then comes to Cain and tells him that all the monsters have fled and that they have won the battle. Cain finally relaxes and returns to the forest to celebrate the victory with his companions. Later, Cain receives a summon from the king. During the previous battle, due to the dazzling light caused by Cain's super-powerful magic, many people mistakenly think that gods have arrived. Several areas even fall into chaos and panic, which irritated the king initially. However, upon knowing that Cain unleashes such powerful magic to defeat the demon Lord Aaron, instead of irritation, the king is astonished and touched by his action. So he rewards Cain with a special territory, which is easily accessible and resource-rich. Therefore, it has become a stronghold for many adventurers. The noble who previously acquired this territory was unable to manage the large number of adventurers and eventually has to give up the territory. But for Cain, managing adventurers isn't a difficult task. After acquiring this territory, he shows all the adventurers his strength, and no adventurer dares to disobey Cain's management. In the process, Seth also visits Cain with his wife. Seth's wife is also a powerful demon, and she also adores Cain. With Seth's introduction, Seth's wife becomes Cain's new companion. With the joint efforts of Cain and his companions, the territory becomes more and more prosperous. Cain constructs a huge and luxurious castle in the territory for himself and his harem. From then on, Cain has lived a fulfilling and peaceful life with his family and companions. Here brings the end of Chronicles of an Aristocrat Reborn in Another World. Cain used to be a very poor child. Because his parents traveled to another world, he became an orphan from an early age. But instead of hating the injustice of fate, Cain retains his kindness. When he died for saving people, he receives a gift from God, which is the reward he deserved. I believe that every kind person like Cain can achieve a happy ending. So, be a kind guy. Well, that's all for today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Your support is what motivates me to keep updating my videos. Bye.